Hey guys, welcome back to another unboxing and examination video. This time we're looking at one of the precons, Commander 2020 precons that excited me the most, which is this Cathrall, the Aspect Warper. So without further ado, let's get in there and check out this deck. And as usual, we'll see what cards we're keeping in, see what cards we're taking out, and then have some extra additions we've been found or hoiked out or acquired somehow from our other collections. So let's have a look. Here she is in all her terrifying beauty. 2 and Abzan colors for a 3/3, which sounds terrible, but of course, when Cathrall enters the battlefield, you look in your graveyard and you look for all these keywords: First Strike, Double Strike, Death Touch, Hexproof, Indestructible, Lifelink, Menace. Oh, if there's creatures that have these keywords, you can put counters with those abilities on any creature you control. So you could dump all those counters on Cathrall. I love this addition that they came up with Wizards, this idea of counters that give permanent abilities to creatures. So you put a flying counter on something, or a trample counter, or death touch counter, and they have all these cool counters that come with the decks and in the latest Ikoria set. So if you've got those keywords in your graveyard on creatures, you can put those keywords on any creature you control. And for each keyword that you put, it says you put a 1/1/1 counter on Cathrall for each counter put on a creature this way. So you could dump all the counters on Cathrall and she'll become this gigantic, super overpowered creature. So you can go Voltron, or you can spread the counters among all your creatures and give them a whole wide range of abilities, and Cathrall will still get the +1/+1 counter. So it's a really solid commander, and the artwork is beyond stunning. So I'm in love with this deck already. It's incredible. So let's have a look. All the usual bump in the deck. So we'll do what we usually do, and we'll have a look at the counters, and we'll see if I can get into this packaging without ripping things or damaging cards. I thought I had the knack last time. Aha! We have success. There you go. Unpeel. All right. So let's see if this comes with a very healthy supply of ability counters. I suspect it will. Keyword counters. So yeah, this is a wonderful new idea by Wizards. Keyword soup, or moving keywords about. Yeah, look, it's a whole bunch of keywords. There's going to be a lot of them. Then we have our beautiful Death Touch insect, flying Death Touch. Look at that hornet craziness. So a whole load of these. I think they might think that we're going to be casting a few things that create those. Bunch of spirits. So quite simple. That's a nice chunk of tokens there. All right, let's look through. We obviously have Cathrall, who is the commander that we're definitely going to be building around. And then we've got our other partner. Not partner commander, just no other option. This is Tyam, Luminous Enigma. So 1 and Abzan colors for 3/3. And this is an interesting one. Each creature you control, each other creature, enters the battlefield with an additional vigilance counter. So that's just a bonus. And then pay 3 and remove 3 counters from among creatures you control. So this could be anything. -1 counters, +1 counters, ability counters. Then you mill 3, and you can put a permanent that costs 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that could be a land, that could be all sorts of creatures, enchantments, loads of things. There's lots of combo potential with this. It's not really, it doesn't really belong in Cathrall because, as you can see, no keywords. But yeah, it's very cool. And again, the art is delightful. Crazy creature, a nightmare beast. So next bunch of partners. So we've got the first half is Nakara, 3 mana, 2/2, as Menace. And whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, if it had 1 or more counters on it, draw a card and lose 1 life. I mean, that can work in quite a few different decks, whether they have -1 counters or +1 counters or ability counters. Quite nice. I like this. And then she partners with this guy, a 4 mana, 3/3, as Vigilance. And when he ETBs, you exile another creature until this guy leaves the battlefield. So you get a bit of a what was it, Oblivion Ring style on your own creatures. And when you do, you distribute X 1/1 counters, where X is the power of the creature that you exiled, and you can spread them around. It's interesting. This hyena beast, who looks like he's grabbing a golf club or something. So again, not really Cathrall material, but very good nonetheless. So let's have a quick whip through, and we'll take cards out as we go that don't really do what we want them to do, or are a little bit expensive. So an Avenging Huntbonder, which is a 5-mana 3/3 with double strike, and it can give double strike to another creature when it attacks. That's pretty cool, but at 5 mana, there are creatures we got ready to go in this deck that are just cheaper and have more keywords, so we kind of want to maximize that. So we can take that out. And this is Wizard's failed attempt to make white good at ramping. It's a 2-mana 2/1 that has flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, you can return it to your hand if they control more lands than you, and then search your library for planes and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Well, that's slow. I mean, I don't know why I had to return it to your hand. I just wish it was, if it did damage, then you could search it up. Because it's already got the restriction of having a player having more lands than you, which is classic white. And it'd be great if this, if this could just do damage. I mean, it's tiny, it dies to a stiff breeze. So why it had to have that other restriction, I do not know. Sadly, it fails in the ramps Enigma problem that white has. A Vitality Hunter 4-mana 3/4 with lifelink. You can give it Monstrosity X, and when it becomes monstrous, put a lifelink counter on X target creatures, which is fair. Again, slow. I don't think got to pump mana into that, so I'm not overly keen. And there's not enough keywords. I want more keywords. This is a fun card. This trying to get the zoom on. Here we go. This 4-mana 5/1, wacky stats, a human warlock. This Daring Fiendbonder. It attacks each combat if able, which kind of sucks because it's going to die, but you can pay 1 and a black to exile him from your graveyard and put an indestructible counter on a target creature. So yeah, he dies, but then he makes himself useful in the graveyard. Again, he's not my favorite because haste is not a keyword that Cathrall can get, but the indestructibility can be quite useful. I still think we have better though. Netherborn Altar is a new artifact, a 2-mana artifact that you can tap to put a soul counter on it, and then put your commander into your hand from the command zone. So this is a way to cheat that command attacks. Then you lose 3 life for each soul counter on Netherborn Altar. So obviously, this could cost you a lot of life, but actually it might work in something like Cathrall, where there's a ton of lifelink creatures anyway. So, pretty solid. I've yet to see how good this will be, but it could be very good. Certainly in some decks where your commanders cost a staggering amount to recast, and you don't really want to do that. So we'll keep that in temporarily. Obscuring Haze, this is another one of those casts for free if you control your commander, a 3-mana instant that says prevent all damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures your opponents control. Obviously, not just combat damage, just damage in total. However, it's not the strongest card. It's okay, it's good, but fogs don't tend to be as powerful as other things that say make your creatures indestructible or what have you. Here's a new one, Selective Adaptation, a 6-mana sorcery. So you reveal the top 7 cards, and you can put into your hand a card with flying, a card with first strike, and so on and so on and so on. So all these keywords, and then one of those cards goes onto the battlefield, the other chosen cards in your hand, and the rest into your graveyard. So if you get a whole bunch of cards with different keywords, you're going to get a load into your hand, you're going to get a load in your graveyard, and you're going to get one on the battlefield for free. So this is a great way to stock up for Cathrall and get a load of value out. Quite like this. Slippery Bogbonder, here's an excellent card. 4-mana 3/3 with flash and hexproof. And when it ETBs, you put a hexproof counter on a target creature. This can really fizzle some of those removal spells. Then move any number of counters from among creatures you control onto that creature. So they try and take out, I don't know, Cathrall or a big creature that you have. And then they not only fail, but that creature can get bigger. This is a really good card. And of course, it can give that keyword hexproof to Cathrall. Hunting Grounds, this is a new land that I love. Nesting Grounds, rather. It taps for colorless, or you can pay 1 and tap it to move a counter from any permanent you control onto another target permanent. There's some broken things you can do with this, because it's target permanent, not even creature. So you can put death touch counters onto like random artifacts or lifelink counters. The most broken thing you can do with this is to put a lifelink counter onto Aetherborn Reservoir, which is nuts, because Aetherborn Reservoir, you can pay 50 life to do 50 damage to someone. Well, of course, if you've got lifelink, you can infinitely kill everyone at the board, because, well, it's just mad. Putting counters on anything is just, there's some crazy shenanigans you can do with that. Amazing, amazing land. And here we go, the keyword madness continues. A Chroma Angel of Wrath. Oh, I love this card. 8 mana for a 6/6, but it has a massive keywords: flying, first strike, vigilance, trample, haste, pro black, and pro red. It's a shame that Catherall can't get protection from things as well, but that would probably be way too busted. As it is, this is an amazing card. This can just end games on its own, and no doubt behind it. Oh, there's another angel. Look, Angel of Finality. This one's quite good to keep in. 4 mana 3/4 that exiles someone's graveyard when it enters. It's always good to have some graveyard hate, and on a creature like this, pretty good. Gives you the keyword for flying. Cataclysmic Gilhulk. This is probably one of the few decks where it's pretty good. A 5 mana 4/5 with vigilance, and when it enters the battlefield, everyone chooses a creature, enchantment, and a planeswalker and an artifact, and then sacrifice the rest of those types of creatures that they have, or artifacts or enchantments or whatever. So it's kind of everybody choose the best thing that you have and sacrifice the rest. However, of course, your best creature is probably going to be Catherall, and she's going to be massive, so it might be that you just outvalue everybody with this. Calumny's Captain, this is a vigilance 5/5 for 5 with monstrosity, but monstrosity is expensive, and this is slow, so I don't really want this in my deck. Odric's great, 4 mana 3/3, and so if a creature that you have has first strike, all your creatures have first strike. Same for flying, death touch, double strike, yada, 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 yada. So at the beginning of combat, you look at your keywords and go, all my other creatures get those keywords. Really good. Revelark is a 5 mana 4/3. When it leaves the battlefield, you return 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less. Again, 2 or less is good in a combo deck. I'm not sure it's the greatest in Catherall, because our creatures, we do have 2 mana creatures, but we tend to want the bigger, fatter, more keywordy creatures, so this is debatably going to come out. Solemn Recruit is a 3 mana 2/2 with double strike with Revolt that gives it +1 counters, but again, we have better than this. Sunblast Angel, 6 mana 4/5, that when it comes into the enters the battlefield, you destroy tap creatures. This could be quite relevant because Catherall and other creatures have lots of vigilance. You can give vigilance to things with counters, so of course it may not affect you ever at all. It is a bit situational, but I'm keeping it in because blow stuff up is good. Together Forever, 2 mana enchantment. Put 1/1 counters on something with support 2, and then pay 1. Choose a creature with a counter on it, and that can be ability counters. When it dies this turn, return that card to its owner's hand. It's okay. Again, I'm not overly bothered because we're trying to give Catherall indestructible, so I think we can take that out too. Then we have our monster dinosaurs as Tulpa, the 8 mana 4/8 with absolutely masses of keywords: flying, double strike, vigilance, trample, indestructible. That very important word, indestructible, very vital. Probably the best creature in the deck with keywords. Really solid. And our Cairn Wanderer, a 5 mana 4/4 that has Changeling, which is irrelevant, but here's the real text that we care about. As long as a creature card with flying is in a graveyard, notice any graveyard, it has flying, and then all these other keywords, it also has 2, which is great because it's kind of like a mini Catherall in some ways, as backup plan. Ever After, quite expensive, 6 mana sorcery. You can return 2 creatures from your graveyard to the battlefield. There's zombies, and then you put this in the bottom of your deck. Again, we can do better for 6 mana, right? Soul of Innistrad, it's not too bad. I mean, it's got Death Touch as a keyword, and you can return target creatures from your graveyard to your hand, and it's up to 3, so you don't just return everything. You might want to return something very specifically, the rest of the keywords, so it could be good. It's not terrible. Soul Flare is bad for this very important reason. Okay, well, it's a 6 mana 4/4 with Delve, and when you delve away those creatures with keywords, this gets the keywords, but I don't want to delve away my creatures with keywords. I don't want to exile cards from my graveyard. I want to keep them there. Catherall wants them there. You go. Hornet Queen is gorgeous. I love this card. This card is just ridiculous. A 7 mana 2/2 with flying and death touch, 2 keywords. And you create 4 green insect tokens with flying and death touch when it comes into the battlefield. And a 2/2 for 7, but it's all these hornets that it comes in as well. It makes people attacking into you so difficult. And if you find ways of recurring this over and over again, things can get mental. I love Hornet Queen. Majestic Meriarch is a 5 mana nothing. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control, which is a bit of a problem because we don't tend to go wide in this deck. We tend to go tall, so it's not great. And it kind of has an Odric ability. It gets flying if creatures you have control have flying, and so on and so forth for all these keywords. But again, I'm not sure this really works here. It's better in a go wide deck that goes wide with creatures. Good old Splinter Fright. let's get him in focus. That's frightening. There we go. 3 mana, and he's got trample, power and toughness equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard, and then mill 2 at the beginning of your upkeep. That's quite relevant too, so I like this guy. Stays in, trample's a good keyword. Abzan Ascendancy. Abzan colors. You get a 1/1 counter on each creature you control when it comes into the battlefield, and then whenever a non-token creature you control dies, you get a 1/1 spirit. However, I think there are better enchantments that we have that synergize better with Cathrall, so let's take him out. Ajani, 6 mana, Planeswalker. I love Ajani, but he doesn't work. Sadly, his +2, which you reveal top 3 cards of your library, and you can put permanents into your hand and the rest into your graveyard, but I just want to mill. Sorry, not the rest in the graveyard, the rest go on the bottom of your library, and that's bad, because I want them in my graveyard. And I don't really want non-land permanents all into my hand anyway. I want creatures in my graveyard, so he's a great Planeswalker, but he doesn't really work here. This does, though. A 6 mana 5/6 with Flying, Vigilance, and Trample. Yep, already in with those keywords. And then you can just choose an artifact, enchantment, instant, sorcery, or Planeswalker, one of those types, and players can't cast spells of the chosen type. It can be nasty if you choose, like, sorcery and they can't cast any of their board wipes. Can you imagine? Cathrall's got hexproof and a whole bunch of other keywords, and you're like, yeah, you can't cast board wipes. Gonna hurt a lot. That's definitely staying in. Deathbridge Chant mills you for 10, which is good, and then you choose a card at random in your graveyard, and you get it into your hand, unless it's a creature, in which case you get it on the battlefield. I like Deathbridge Chant, it's good. Dune Blast, a lot of mana. It's 4 in Abzan for a sorcery. Choose 1 creature and then destroy the rest. Pretty much sure you should be choosing Cathrall. It's quite expensive. It's not the end of the world having this in the deck, but it's very expensive. So I'm torn. I think we can probably do better board wipes than that. I mean, Cathrall's going to be indestructible anyway, right? So hopefully. So Karametra, I love this. Beautiful. The Theros gods. Theros is my favorite set of all time. 5 mana for a 6/7 indestructible with devotion, obviously. And then when you cast a creature spell, search for a forest or plains, put it on the battlefield tapped, get ramp. But the keyword's also very critical. That's definitely staying in. Mimic Vat sadly doesn't work. I don't want to exile things. I want them into my graveyard. When a non-token creature dies, exile that card, etc. Create a token that's a copy of that card. Well, I want the creature to go into my graveyard. Stop. I like Mimic Vat, but it's not this for this deck. Then we got our good lands, Canopy Vista, Casa Koilos, Orchard, Gamony Township. Again, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. I've got other go-wide decks that would probably prefer this, but still a good card. Grim Backwards to draw a card by sacking creatures. Maybe you want them in your graveyard for the keywords for Cathrall. Blighted Woodland, Command Tower, and then the bounce lands, which we will happily remove. I really don't like tempoing myself. Memorial to Folly, I think we can also take this out with even better cards than that. Orders of Basilica can come out as well. Another bounce land. Sandstep staying in. The Selesnya Sanctuary. And where is our old friend, the worst of the worst? Oh, there's no Temple of the False God in here. Wizards, what are you doing? What is happening? Seriously, did I miss it? Am I going blind? Wow, they didn't include Temple of the False God. Now that is false, Wizards. That's wrong of you. You didn't give me one to throw away. Okay, so that's that. That's our lands package. Now, on to the other stuff to throw away. Bonder's Ornament we always throw away because it's terrible. All the rest is pretty good. Let's get the focus back on again. Swiftfoot Boots, we like you. Hexproof and Haste. And now on to the removal package. This is overly expensive. Destroy target creature and put a menace counter on a creature you control. Nah. Cheaper cards. We have cheaper cards. Unbreakable Bond to return something from your graveyard to the battlefield with a lifelink counter on it. Again, I think we have better cards. Void Beckoner is massive with Death Touch. And when you cycle it, put a Death Touch counter on something. But I think we can do better with more keywords. Same through Titanoth Rex. Huge and tramply. Got cycling and you put a trample counter on something. I mean, they're fun cards, but I think we can really do better, guys. And then we won't talk about these because these are terrible. Aerial Responder. It's got nice keywords. Again, I think we can do better creatures, though. Better creatures than that. Unburial Rites is good. It's staying in. Not because of this cost up here to return a target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, but because it has flashback for 4. So you mill it into your graveyard and you can still use it, which is very relevant. Vampire Nighthawk will also stay in. Flying, Death Touch, and Lifelink. just a little bit better than this aerial responder guy. They're similar, and yet they're not, because Death Touch is superior in my mind to Vigilance. Again, you might keep the responder in. Then our good old friend Acidic Slime, a 5-mana 2/2 with Death Touch, and when it ETBs, you destroy a target artifact, enchantment, or land. We love Acidic Slime. We'll never take that out of decks. It's too good. Cultivate, staying in. Harmonize, great card draw. Sakura Tribe Elder, our old friend, to search for a basic land. Amazing stuff. Satyr Wayfinder to mill. Great. Skullwinder, good quality, cheap graveyard recursion, if you like. Death Touch, and when it ETBs, return a card from your graveyard to your hand, choose an opponent, and they can return a card, which is good politics. Abzan Charm is good, but we can do better. I do like it, though. It's got good stuff. But anyway, Death Sprout, again, quite expensive for what it does. Despark is good. Solid card. Grizzly Salvage to mill for 5. And then Nyx Weaver, which is a great card as well, to fill your graveyard. All right, we've whipped through that quite quickly. So what can we add? What did we take away, first of all? So we took away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, which isn't too bad. 26 out of there, and 4 lands. Okay, so let's go straight in at lands and ramp and things like that. So obviously there's all sorts of fancy lands you can do, but I'm looking at budget things as well. 2 lands that I think are worthy of looking at and that are often overlooked in EDH Commander are the Oases cycle from Hour of Devastation. Now they tap for a colorless, or they pay 1 life and add a color respective of the desert that you have, in this case green. I like this desert, this one, particularly the Hash Up Oasis, because it has this ability. Pay 1 and 2 green and tap it to give target creature +3/+3. I like this because you can do it on Cathril, who you're trying to Voltron up and then make massive, so you can one-shot people with a, like double strike or whatever. So this could do it. And then we have Ifnir Deadlands, which again does the same thing. Colorless, or pay 1 life to add black, but then you can pay 4 and sack it to put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. Or you sack a desert, you don't have to sack this, but put 2 -1 counters on target creature and opponent controls. Now, the other reason that these are in the deck is there are creatures, or 1 creature in particular that likes having deserts, and they're not much of a difficult include, really. You can take out some of the worst lands to put them in. Now, there's 2 things that we really want to do with Cathril. We want to fill the graveyard, and we want to have keywords in that graveyard to do it. So obviously we need a bit of ramp to get to casting spells. I won't go into this too much, but I think it's useful to have the signets in there, even though you want to have quite a few creatures to ramp as well. Now, creatures are possibly preferable, but signets are just good. And then, of course, we've got our new Ikoria migration path, which I just like because, again, the cycling is such a useful ability to get rid of it if it's stuck in your hand. Obviously, we've got the crystals, which are new, and have the 3 colors and cycling as well. I think these just raise the bar a little bit over 3 mana rocks that don't really do anything else. Now, let's talk about filling that graveyard. Okay, so excellent new Ikoria card is a Skull Prophet, a 2 mana 3/1 that you can tap to add green or black, or you can tap it to mill 2. I just love this. This is mana ramp and milling yourself for 2, an excellent addition. Dredge is one of the most broken mechanics of all time. So a 3 mana 2/1 Stinkweed Imp with flying. Nice keyword. Not all the Dredge cards have good keywords, but this does. But when it deals damage to a creature, destroy that creature. So it basically kind of has pseudo Death Touch. It's a shame it doesn't say Death Touch. Can you imagine this with flying and Death Touch? What a cracker. But Dredge 5. So if you draw a card, instead mill 5 into your graveyard and put this back into your hand from your graveyard. We want to dredge like crazy. So Stinkweed Imp is amazing for this deck. Maya Triton is a super cheap card from Theros, the latest Theros block. Come on, there we go. 2 mana 2/1 with Death Touch, another keyword. Then you mill 2 when it ETBs and gain 2 life. Very useful. Then what if you got the creature stuck in your hand? This is where our buddy Lotleth Troll comes in. A 2 mana 2/1 with Trample, another keyword. Discard a creature card, put a 1/1 counter on him, or pay a black to regenerate him. This card is really useful, especially when those cards get stuck in your hand. Now, maybe spells are the way you want to go to fill your graveyard, in which case we've got things like Mulch, which is cheap as chips. You mill 4 and put lands into your hand and the rest in your graveyard, which is great because you want the creatures in your graveyard and you want the lands to play to ramp. So Mulch is good. Got Commune with the Gods 2 mana to look at 5 cards, then put a creature or enchantment card. So some of those enchantments are quite good in this deck, so you want to get them back sometimes. Scout the borders. 3 mana to reveal 5 cards, put a creature or land into your hand, the rest in your graveyard. Mill yourself like crazy. And then we want to be a bit more specific. So we have stuff like Buried Alive to literally, for 3 mana, search your library for 3 creature cards, put them in your graveyard. I mean, you can get your 3 best keyword creatures, and then you can just go ham. That could possibly just outright win you the game if you put the indestructible keywords in your graveyard. And then we got Final Parting. Again, this is really cheap. This is, whoops, excuse me. That's not focusing. Go on, there we go. Final Parting, 5 mana for sorcery. This is, oh, my brain has gone dead on which set this is, but this is a fairly recent set. Yeah, return to? Oh, I can't remember. Whatever. Search the library for 2 cards, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard, and shuffle your library. So this is great. You can put that creature card with all the keywords into your library, and then maybe search for Buried Alive to get more. Who knows? This is the latest one from Ikoria. This is a Abzan mana sorcery. And then whenever a non-creature you control dies, you mill 2. Then you can return a creature card that costs less than the creature that died to your hand, which is good. You know, you can get creatures back. You can mill yourself for more creatures. Or you can pay 1 to sacrifice this. This is mainly so you don't mill yourself out with some combo. And then you gain life equal to the greatest CMC among creatures you control. That could save your life. An old favorite of mine from Ether Revolt, which is a 2 mana perpetual timepiece artifact. Tap to put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard, and then this very important piece of text: pay 2 mana to exile it and shuffle your graveyard back into your library. Essentially, this can protect you from that graveyard hate, which is doubtless coming. Okay, so that's a lot of filling your graveyard. What about more keywords? We want all the keywords. So before we do, there's some super cheap budget options that are probably overlooked. You've got this one from Throne of Eldraine, a full mana 2/3, but it costs 2 less to cast if an opponent controls a green permanent. It's commander, so people probably are going to have green permanents. It has Death Touch, and if it deals damage to a player, you can draw a card. Really super cheap. You're probably not going to see this in too many decks. And then this one, maybe you're struggling to get Indestructible because it's mostly on gods or other expensive cards or more expensive cards, but this is stupid cheap. It's massively expensive. It's a 7 mana 4/4, which is terrible, but it has flying Indestructible. So perhaps that's a budget option, should you want to desperately have something to have Indestructible on. Now, creatures that are actually a bit more relevant. This good old Basara Tower Archer, 2 mana 2/1, Hexproof Reach. Hexproof is an excellent keyword, and it's 2 keywords. Even Sunstriker, and this is a 3 mana card that has better value than those other ones we got rid of. It's got flying and double strike. I mean, Megamorph is irrelevant, but flying and double strike on one card is great. Who knows, you might be able to load it up with 1/1 counters or other things. Leyline Prowler. This is dual purpose. It's a 3 mana 2/3, has Death Touch and Lifelink, 2 important keywords, and you can tap it to add mana. I mean, what's not to like? And it's a nightmare, which fits in very nicely with Catherall, of course. And here's the one that likes deserts. The Ramanap Hydra, which is again from Hour of Devastation. 4 mana 3/3, Vigilance, Reach, and Trample. Good keywords. And +1/+1 as long as you control a desert, and there might be a desert in your deck. And +1/+1 if a desert is in your graveyard. So it might be there too. Yeah, suggested some deserts you could throw in. Then this one has just keyword soup. This is from War of Spark. It's a 6 mana 3/3 Angel. Sunblade Angel. Flying, first strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. Just good. Good in its own right, but absolutely amazing in this deck. Another one from Theros. Good old Kuneros, Hound of Athreos. Or Kunoros. It's no, isn't it? Kunoros. There we go. Hound of Athreos. 3 mana 3/3. Vigilance, Menace, and Lifelink. Creature cards can't enter the battlefield from graveyards. Players can't cast spells from graveyards. Which is interesting because if you do play this out on the battlefield, it's probably going to hose other people in many ways more than you, because you're not actually always looking to play from your graveyard. You're just looking to make Catherall massive or keyword soup from your graveyard. So it could be very powerful. Of course, we do want to get things out of our graveyard eventually. Now here's one that I've not seen anyone talk about on any deck text, and I don't know why, because it's quite incredible. This is Glissa the Traitor. I don't even think she's that expensive. So she's a 3 mana 3/3, and she has 2 keywords, First Strike and Death Touch. And this text could be quite relevant. Whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into a graveyard, which is going to happen, you know, with First Strike and Death Touch, she's going to kill things quite easily. When they're put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you can return an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. What artifacts, you may ask? Well, we've already got some artifacts in our deck. We've got Perpetual Timepiece, which we might want to get back should we milled it by accident. We've got the giant, not the giant, the Gear Hulk in the deck that has vigilance and nukes things. And there are even more cards that we're going to have a look at right now that we want to hoik out. Things that have to do with making even more counters or keeping the counters safe. So take the Ozolith, which is straight out of Ikoria. 1 mana artifact for this incredible ability. Whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, so it can be flickered or exiled or whatever, if it had counters on it, put them on this. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if this has counters on it, you can move all counters from it onto a creature. That's just bonkers. I mean, that's just ridiculously bonkers. I mean, I swear. I mean, I'd love to know, did they print this before they made Cathrall? Did they make Cathrall and thought, I'll tell you what, let's put a bonkers artifact in the general set that people are just going to have for the deck? This is insane. This is just so good. I mean, you don't care if Cathrall dies. You go, oh, well, I got my, 3 mana 1/1 Sunstriker, which is just going to be ridiculously huge or whatever. This card is nuts. And then, now this is quite expensive, so I just pulled this from a pack because I was fortunate enough, but the Luminous Broodmoth, a 4 mana 3/4 with flying, a keyword. Whenever a creature you control without flying dies, return it to the battlefield with a flying counter on it. So, Cathrall dies, and she doesn't have flying. She comes back with flying. Or another creature dies and it comes back. It's just good recursion of prevents, helps against board wipes. Our old friend Panharmonicon, again, such a cool card. 4 mana artifact, and if a creature or artifact ETBs and triggers an ability, it triggers twice. So Cathrall comes in. She gets double the amount of ability counters to put on herself or creatures. And that means she'll get double the amount of +1/+1 counters as well. As far as I believe, that seems to make the best sense. So you're just going to make things so massive and so overpowered. Winding Constrictor is a 2 mana 2/3, again from Aether Revolt. And if one or more counters would be placed on an artifact or a creature. So did you notice it says an artifact? The Ozolith. Yeah. So 1/1 counters put on the Ozolith? Yeah. More. So that many +1 are put on them instead. However, the last line of the text could be nasty if you're playing with Infect People. If you would get 1 or more counters, you get that many +1. Don't play Infect People and play this, obviously. Okay, so that's making keywords more effective. Then some simple removals. This is a recently printed one, obviously from Ikoria. A 2 mana instant exile target creature. If you don't control a human, you lose life equal to its creature's toughness. Frankly, I don't really care because I'm running lifelink creatures like mad in this deck. So, and then we've got the very new Mythos of Nethroi, a 3 mana instant. Destroy target non-land permanent if you spent Abzan to cast this spell, or just destroy a creature if you didn't. I mean, that's very good. Just destroy a permanent. It could be a land, enchantment, artifact. Great, great card. Now, other things. We want, of course, Golgari Finebroker. So, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Solid. There is now, I mean, it's hugely expensive, but at the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So repeated recursion, you could stick that in. There's probably better things though, like this mad card from Ikoria that I love. This is Nethroi. He's going to, come on Nethroi, get in focus. Focus. There we go. It's a 5 mana 5/5 with 2 cool keywords, Death Touch and Lifelink. When you mutate him, return any number of target creature cards with power 10 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. This guy is just so incredible that I want to build a commander deck around him anyway. You could try doing it yourself. And then Eerie Ultimatum, another Ikoria card. Pretty cheap actually. Pay a whopping 7. But when you do, return any number of permanent cards with different names from your graveyard to the battlefield, which a commander says, resurrect your graveyard, quite literally. Now, you bring all your creatures back. Unfortunately, they don't have haste. On Cathrall, you bring her in. doesn't have haste, but here's a budget option for you to give haste to all those creatures you just resurrected. Crashing Drawbridge, a 2-mana artifact from Eldraine with Defender, but tap it. Creatures you control gain haste until end of turn. That is juicy. All those creatures you resurrected, swing out and kill your opponents. So there we go. There's a few ideas for Cathril. Have fun building it if you get it. We've got one more deck to look at, which we'll pull apart, and we may even take 2 ways to look at it. But until then, adios.